1 year after the Battle of Sol, Captain Hana Kim stood at the window of the new Galactic Defense Council chamber. The station orbited in neutral space between the territories of all member species. Through the large window, she could see ships, coming and going, vessels of many different designs from many different worlds. "Hard to believe it's only been a year," said General Jin Yoon, now Admiral Yoon, as he joined her at the window. His uniform was new, bearing the insignia of the Coalition fleet. "Sometimes it feels like yesterday," Hana replied. "Other times it feels like a lifetime ago." The door to the chamber opened, and representatives from 27 different species began to file in. Some were old assembly members who had broken away after the battle. Others were young species who had been next on the harvesters list. All had chosen to join the new alliance that was reshaping the galaxy. "It's time," said Admiral Yoon. "They're waiting for your report." Hana nodded and moved to the center of the chamber. As the hero of the Battle of Sol and the sister of Jun Kim, now known across the galaxy as the Connector, she had become humanity's voice in this new alliance. "Representatives of the Galactic Defense Council," she began, "I bring news of our continuing efforts to neutralize the remaining harvester units. Over the past year, we have located and converted 12 dormant harvester fleets in sectors across the galaxy." Murmurs spread through the chamber. One of the representatives, AI, member of the former assembly, rose to speak. His crystal body identified him as a Talri, though not Veldoran. "This is unprecedented," he said. "For millions of years, the harvesters maintained what we thought was the natural order. Now, in a single year, you have undone their work entirely." "Not undone," Hana corrected. "Transformed. The harvesters now serve a new purpose: exploration and protection rather than destruction." The representative didn't look convinced. Many of the older species were still struggling to accept the new order. They had built their entire society around the belief that the cycle of rising and falling species was natural and unchangeable. After the meeting, Hana met with Veldoran in a quiet corner of the station. The Talri who had first warned Earth still served as an advisor to the Coalition. "Not everyone is happy with these changes," Veldoran said. "Many in the old assembly believe you have upset the balance of the galaxy." "What balance?" Hana asked. "A system where new species were systematically wiped out wasn't balance. It was control." "I agree," said Veldoran. "But you should be careful. There are those who would restore the old ways if they could." Hana smiled slightly. "They can try, but I don't think June would let them." Later that day, Hana boarded a shuttle to visit what had once been the Dauntless. Now it was something else entirely. A massive living ship that combined human Alnar and harvester technology. And at its heart was her brother, Jun. As she stepped through the airlock, the walls pulsed with soft green light. The inside of the ship looked like nothing built by human hands. Flowing organic shapes merged with technology, creating spaces that felt both alien and strangely welcoming. "Jun?" she called out. The air shimmered, and a figure appeared before her. It looked like Jun, but not quite. His body seemed partly transparent, with glowing lines running through it like circuits. "Hello, Hana," he said, his voice the same as always despite his changed appearance. "It's good to see you." "How are you feeling?" she asked. It was the same question she always asked, never quite knowing what answer to expect. "Different," he replied with a smile. "Better in many ways. I can see and feel things I never could before. The ship, or I guess I should say we, are still learning what we can do. The Council is impressed with your work finding the dormant harvester fleets." Jun's form shimmered slightly. "They're just the beginning. There's so much more out there, Hana. The harvesters were exploring the galaxy for millions of years. They have star maps and records of thousands of worlds no one has visited in generations. Is that what you're planning to do next? Explore?" "Yes, but first we need to make sure the galaxy is safe. The architects are still out there." The architects, the species that had created the harvesters millions of years ago. After the Battle of Sol, they had retreated to their core worlds, cutting off contact with the rest of the galaxy. "Do you think they'll try to restart the cycle?" Hana asked. "They might," June said. They built the harvesters because they feared being surpassed by younger species. That fear hasn't gone away. Hana looked around at the incredible ship her brother had become part of. I'm not sure they could restart it, even if they wanted to. Maybe not, Jun agreed, but we should be prepared anyway. They talked for hours, as they always did during her visits. Jun told her about the strange and wonderful things he had discovered in the harvester records. Hana told him about the politics of the new coalition and the challenges of bringing so many different species together. As she prepared to leave, Jun's form flickered, then solidified again. There's something else I wanted to tell you. We've been studying the harvester technology, understanding how it works, and, Hana prompted, the quantum link that connected all the harvester units. It's similar to the technology that lets me exist as part of this ship. With some modifications, we might be able to use it to let me visit Earth again. Not physically, but as a projection, like how I'm talking to you now. Hana felt a surge of hope. Jun hadn't been able to return to Earth since he merged with the ship. Their parents still grieved for him, even though he wasn't truly gone. That would be wonderful, she said. Mom and Dad miss you. I miss them too, Jun replied. And Earth. But I don't regret what happened. We stopped the cycle, Hana. We saved not just Earth, but countless worlds that would have been destroyed. In the future. 2 days later, Hana stood with Dr. Mi Kang in her lab on Earth. They were looking at a holographic display of the galaxy, with bright points showing the locations of all known species. It's amazing how much we've learned in just 1 year, said Dr. Kang. The old assembly hoarded knowledge for millions of years. Now it's being shared freely. Not all of it, Hana noted. The architects and their allies are still keeping their secrets. True, but we're learning quickly. Dr. Kang pointed to a section of the map. These 5 systems contain young species who haven't even achieved spaceflight yet. Under the old rules, no one would have contacted them until they developed FTL travel, and then only to document them before the harvesters came. And now? Asked Hana. Now we're debating whether to make peaceful contact, to let them know they're not alone in the universe, to give them choices about their future. Hana smiled. I think Jun would approve of that. As they spoke, a message came through on Hana's communicator. It was from Admiral Yoon. Captain Kim, we've detected unusual activity at the edge of Architect space. Multiple ships moving in formation. You'd better get up here. Hana exchanged a glance with Dr. Kang. Duty calls, she said. As she headed for the shuttle that would take her back to orbit, Hana looked up at the sky. Somewhere out there, her brother was watching over the galaxy, making sure the cycle stayed broken. And if the architects were planning something, they would find that humanity and its allies were ready. The galaxy had watched countless species die, unable or unwilling to prevent their destruction. But humanity had refused to accept that fate. They had fought back, formed alliances, and broken a cycle that had lasted for millions of years. And in doing so, they had changed the course of galactic history forever. Now, as new threats emerged, and new discoveries awaited, one thing was certain. The future would not be determined by the fears of the past. It would be shaped by the courage and cooperation of all species who chose to stand together. The age of watching was over. The age of action had begun. Blue energy waves spread from the Dauntless like ripples in a pond, washing over the harvester ships. One by one, the massive black snowflakes stopped moving. Some drifted aimlessly. Others began to break apart, pieces floating away into space. On the bridge of the Dauntless, Captain Hana Kim could hardly believe what she was seeing. Status report, she said, her voice steady despite the excitement building in her chest. Lieutenant Tae Park checked his screens. The quantum disruptor worked better than we expected. 80% of the harvester ships have lost power. The rest are trying to regroup, but they're confused. They've never experienced anything like this, said Dr. Mi Kang. Their programming can't handle it. Jun Kim looked up from where he had been monitoring the disruptor. Captain, we have a problem. The disruptor is overheating. We have maybe 10 minutes before it fails. Hana's brief moment of hope faded. And when it fails? The harvesters that survived will regain their coordination, said Dr. Kang. They'll adapt to prevent this from happening again. We won't get a second chance. Hana looked at the screens showing the coalition fleet. They had lost nearly a third of their ships, but they were still fighting. If the harvesters regrouped, the losses would be much worse. We need to finish this now, she said. While they're vulnerable, she opened a channel to all coalition ships. This is Captain Kim. The harvesters are down but not out. We have 10 minutes to destroy as many as we can before they adapt. All ships, full attack. Across the solar system, ships from 4 different species surged forward. Human battleships fired their railguns at the drifting harvester vessels. Alnar living ships wrapped around the enemy, tearing them apart with organic tendrils. Petran sound cannons shattered the weakened hulls. Noxari energy beams cut through the strange metal that had once seemed indestructible. We're making progress, reported Tay. Harvester numbers down to 60%, 50%. But the remaining harvesters were beginning to move again. Their formations became more erratic, less coordinated, but they were still dangerous. One of them turned toward Earth and began to accelerate. They're targeting the planet directly, Hana said. Intercept course now. The Dauntless shot forward, its engines straining. The hybrid ship was faster than before, the Alnar living tissue somehow making the engines more efficient. They positioned themselves between Earth and the approaching harvester. Weapons ready, said Tay. Fire everything we have, ordered Hana. The Dauntless unleashed its full arsenal. Railguns, sound cannons, and strange energy weapons the Alnar tissue had grown on the hull. The harvester ship shuddered under the impact but kept coming. It's not enough, said June. We need more power. Zeal, the Alnar representative, stepped forward. The living tissue can channel more energy, but it needs food. What kind of food? Asked Hana. Energy. Life force. In our ships, we feed it with our own life energy when necessary. Hana understood what he was suggesting. How many of us would it need? Just one, said Zeal. But the process is dangerous for non-Alnar. It might kill a human. June stepped forward before Hana could speak. I'll do it. No. Hana grabbed her brother's arm. I'm the captain. It's my responsibility. And I'm the one who knows how the disruptor works, June replied. If something goes wrong with it, you'll need me. Besides, he smiled slightly, I'm younger. I have more life energy to spare. Before Hana could argue further, the ship rocked from another hit. The harvester was almost on them. There's no time to debate, said June. Tell me what to do, Zeal. The Alnar led June to where the living tissue covered part of the wall. It pulsed with a dim green light. Place your hands on it and focus your thoughts on giving it your energy, Zeal instructed. It will do the rest. June pressed his palms against the living material. At first nothing happened, then the tissue began to glow brighter. It spread further across the walls, pulsing with June's heartbeat. The ship's lights flickered, then grew stronger. The engines hummed with new power. On the bridge, Hana watched as her ship transformed even more. The Alnar tissue spread across every surface, merging with the ship systems in ways the engineers had never intended. All weapons showing 300% power increase, reported Tay in amazement. Whatever June's doing, it's working. Fire again, ordered Hana. Everything. We've got. This time the Dauntless's weapons tore through the harvester ship. The massive structure broke apart, pieces scattering into space. Harvester destroyed, Tay confirmed. But there are still others regrouping. Hana checked the time. How long? Until the disruptor fails? 2 minutes, said Dr. Kang. Maybe less. We need to take out the remaining ships, said Hana, especially the largest ones. She opened a channel to the coalition fleet again. All ships focus fire on the 3 largest harvester vessels. Coordinates being transmitted now. The coalition forces converged on the targets. It was a desperate gamble, leaving some smaller harvesters alone to concentrate their firepower on the largest ships, which likely contained the command systems. 1 minute to disruptor failure, warned Dr. Kang. Hana watched as her fleet pounded. The harvester vessels. One of the large ships broke apart, then another, but the third was adapting, its hull shifting to absorb the attacks. "It's learning again," said Tay. "Our weapons are becoming less effective." 30 seconds, said Dr. Kang. Hana made a decision. "Set collision course with the third command ship." Tay's eyes widened. "Captain?" "You heard me. If we can't destroy it with weapons, we'll ram it with our ship." As the Dauntless accelerated toward the remaining command ship, Hana opened the internal comms. "Jun, can you hear me?" His voice came back weak but clear. "I hear you, sis. We're going to ram the last command ship. You need to get to an escape pod." "Can't," Jun replied. "I'm kind of, connected to the ship now. The tissue won't let me go." Hana felt her heart drop. "There has to be a way." "There isn't," Jun interrupted. "But it's okay, the ship and we've become something new, something the Harvesters can't understand. And I think that's how we win." The Dauntless sped toward the command ship, its hybrid systems pushing beyond their limits. The Harvester vessel tried to move away, but it was too slow, still, recovering from the disruptor's effects. "Impact in 10 seconds, said Tay. "All crew to escape pods," ordered Hana. "That's an order." "We're staying with you, Captain," Tay replied. Around the bridge, the crew nodded. 5 seconds, said Dr. Kang. Hana closed her eyes. "Jun, I know," said her brother's voice, now somehow coming from the ship itself rather than the comms. "See you on the other side, sis." The Dauntless slammed into the Harvester command ship, but instead of a simple explosion, something strange happened. The ulnar tissue spread from the human ship to the Harvester vessel, covering it in pulsing green light. The quantum disruptor, moments from failure, flared with new power supplied by Jun's life force. A flash of blue-green light engulfed both ships. When it faded, the Harvester command ship was gone. In its place floated a new kind of vessel, part human, part ulnar, part Harvester technology, all merged together. And somehow, impossibly, the Dauntless was intact within this new entity. On its bridge, Hana and her crew stared in amazement through viewports that now looked out through a living membrane. What happened?" asked Tay. "Jun happened," said Hana softly. "He didn't destroy the Harvester ship. He converted it." Throughout the solar system, the remaining Harvester vessels suddenly stopped fighting. Their strange forms began to shift, changing into shapes that resembled the new hybrid at the center of the battlefield. "They're all connected," said Dr. Kang in wonder. "The command ship controls the others. And now Jun controls the command ship," finished Hana. A voice echoed through the bridge. Jun's voice, but different somehow, deeper and with strange harmonics. "Not just me," he said. "Us. The ship, the ulnar tissue, the Harvester technology, we've merged, and we understand them now. The Harvesters weren't evil. They were just following their programming. Now we've given them a new program." Across the Coalition fleet, crews watched in amazement as the fearsome Harvester ships transformed, their black surfaces now streaked with green living tissue. "The battle is over," Jun's voice announced to all ships. "The cycle is broken." For the first time in a million years, a young species had faced the Harvesters and survived. Not just survived, but changed them, remade them into something new. The galaxy had watched hundreds of species die. Now it would watch humanity forge a new path, one where different species and even ancient enemies could become something greater together than they ever were apart. Alarms blared across Luna Station as screens showed the massive Harvester ships appearing at the edge of the solar system. They looked like giant black snowflakes, each one bigger than the largest human city. "They're early," General Jin Yoon said, his voice calm despite the panic around him. "We have to move up our timeline." Captain Hana Kim nodded. She turned to the aliens standing with them in the command center. There was Zeal of the Ulnar, a tall being with skin like tree bark and eyes that glowed green. Next to him stood Ravi of the Patron, short and stocky with 4 arms and skin that shifted colors with his mood. And beside them was Dora of the Noxari, who looked almost human except for her silver skin and the fact that she floated a few inches above the ground. "Is your fleet ready?" Hana asked them. "The living ships of the Alnar are prepared," said Zeal. "They hunger for battle. The Petrine sound cannons are tuned and ready," said Ravi. "We await your signal." "The Noxari shield generators are at full power," said Dora. "We will protect your world as if it were our own." Hana's brother June entered the room, followed by Dr. Mi Kang. They carried a device that looked like a silver egg with blue lights pulsing inside it. "The quantum resonance disruptor is ready," Dr. Kang said. "It should break the link between the harvester units, but it has to be deployed at the heart of their fleet." "That's a suicide mission," said General Yoon. "Not if we work together," June replied. "The coalition gives us a chance none of us would have alone." Hana looked at the faces around her, human and alien, all united against a common threat. For 1,000,000 years the Assembly had kept young species apart, letting them die one by one. But not this time. This time, they would stand together. "We need to go over the plan one more time," she said. "We don't get a second chance." The harvester ships moved slowly toward Earth, their strange forms distorting the space around them. In orbit around Earth, the coalition fleet waited. Human battleships with their railguns and nuclear missiles. Alnar living ships that looked like giant space whales. Petrin vessels shaped like spinning tops. Noxari shield ships that bent light around them. On the bridge of the Dauntless, now the flagship of the coalition, Captain Hana Kim took a deep breath. "All ships, this is Captain Kim. The harvesters have never been defeated because they've never faced a united front. Today, that changes. Today, we fight not just for Earth, but for all the species that have fallen before us, and all those who will come after. Today we break the cycle." She nodded to Lieutenant Tae Park. "Send the signal, begin Phase 1. The first wave of ships moved forward. Small, fast human fighters escorted by Noxari shield ships. They charged toward the harvesters, their goal, not to attack, but to gather data on how the enemy responded. "The harvesters are powering up their main weapons," reported Tae. The screens showed strange energy patterns forming around the enemy ships, just as the archives showed, said Dr. Kang, who stood nearby monitoring the enemy's responses. "They're preparing to disable our technology." The harvester weapons fired, beams of purple energy that should have shut down every system on the human ships. But nothing happened. "The Noxari shields are working," Tae shouted. "Our systems are still online." On the screen, Hana saw the confusion in the harvesters' response. Their weapons fired again, adjusting to target the Noxari shields instead. "They're adapting," Hana said. "Phase 2 now." The second wave of ships moved in, Petrin vessels with their sound cannons. They fired at the harvesters, sending waves of energy that couldn't be seen but could be felt as vibrations through the hulls of every ship. The harvester ships shuddered, their perfect formations breaking slightly. "It's working," Jun said, watching, from beside his sister. "The sound cannons are disrupting their coordination." But the harvesters adapted quickly. Their ships rearranged, forming a new pattern that seemed to absorb the sound waves. Then they fired back. 3 Petrin ships exploded, in silent bursts of light. "They're learning," said Dr. Kang, "faster than we expected." "Then we move to Phase 3, said Hana. "All ships, full attack." The battle erupted across the solar system. Human battleships fired their railguns, sending massive metal slugs at near light speed into the harvester ships. Alnar living ships wrapped themselves around enemy vessels, their organic hulls secreting acids that ate through the strange metal. Petrin and Noxari ships worked together, one creating openings in the enemy defenses, the other striking through them. But it wasn't enough. For every hit they landed, the harvesters adapted. Their ships changed form, sealing damages, adjusting weapons. They began to push back the coalition forces. "We're losing ships too fast." General Yoon's voice came through the comms from Earth. "Command. At this rate, we won't last another hour." Hana looked at the quantum resonance disruptor sitting on the bridge. It was their last hope, but they needed to get it to the center of the harvester fleet. "We need a new plan," she said. "The harvesters are too good at adapting to each of our technologies separately." "Then let's stop using them separately," said Jun suddenly. What if we combine them? What do you mean? Asked Hana. The archive said the harvesters were programmed to counter single-species technology. So let's give them something they've never seen before. Technology from 4 species, working as one. Hana's eyes widened as she understood. Tay, get me the leaders of each species fleet. Within minutes, a new plan was formed. The Dauntless would carry the quantum disruptor into the heart of the enemy fleet. But it wouldn't go alone, and it wouldn't go unprotected. Engineers from all 4 species worked frantically to modify the Dauntless. They added Noxari shield generators to its hull. They installed Petrin sound cannons alongside the human railguns. And most strange of all, they grafted living tissue from an Alnar ship onto the hull, creating a hybrid vessel unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The harvesters won't know what to make of this, said Dr. Kang, looking at the readings from the modified ship. Its signature isn't human anymore, it's not any single species. That's the idea, said Hana. We're going to confuse the hell out of them. As the modifications were completed, Hana gathered her crew. This is a volunteer mission only, she said. Our chances of coming back are slim. We're with you, Captain, said Tay without hesitation. The rest of the crew nodded. Zeal, Ravi, and Dora stepped forward as well. We will join you, said Zeal. Each of our species must be represented for the plan to work. And I'm coming too, said Jun. Someone needs to deploy the disruptor once we're in position. Hana looked at her brother, wanting to argue, but knowing he was right. She nodded. Then let's go break a 1,000,000-year-old cycle. The modified Dauntless separated from the rest of the fleet. It looked strange now. Part human battleship, part living organism with devices from 2 other alien species grafted onto its hull. It powered up its engines and headed straight for the center of the harvester fleet. They've spotted us, said Tay as the enemy ships began to turn toward them. The first harvester beam hit them and slid off the Noxari shields. The second struck harder, targeting the shields specifically. But then the Alnar living tissue on the hull pulsed, absorbing the energy and using it to strengthen the shields. They can't figure out what we are, said Dr. Kang, watching the enemy's confused responses. They're trying different weapon configurations, but nothing's working quite right against our hybrid systems. The Dauntless pushed deeper into the enemy formation. Harvester ships surrounded them now. There was no escape, Krot, but that was part of the plan. They weren't trying to escape. They were trying to get to the heart of the fleet. We're almost in position, said Jun, checking the quantum disruptor. Just a little closer. A massive hit rocked the ship. The Noxari shields flickered. The harvesters were starting to coordinate their attacks more effectively. They're learning, said Hana. We don't have much time. With a final burst of speed, the Dauntless reached the center of the harvester fleet. All around them, the enemy ships converged, preparing to destroy this strange vessel that defied their programming. Now, Jun, Hana shouted. Jun activated the quantum disruptor. The silver egg opened, releasing a wave of blue energy that spread outward in all directions. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, one by one, the harvester ships began to falter. Their perfect formations broke apart. Their weapons powered down. The strange distortion around them faded. It's working, whispered Tay in awe. It's actually working. Across the solar system, the coalition forces watched as the mighty harvester fleet, undefeated for 1,000,000 years, began to fall apart before their eyes. The cycle was breaking, and humanity had shattered it. The underground bunker beneath Sol was packed with military leaders from around the world. Maps and screens covered the walls, showing Earth and its 7 colony worlds. General Jin Yoon stood at the front of the room, his face grim. We have 89 days before the harvesters arrive, he said. Thanks to Ambassador Veldoran's data, we know what we're up against. He pressed a button and a hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed a strange ship, if you could call it a ship. It looked more like a giant snowflake made of black metal with parts that seemed to fade in and out of sight. The harvesters use technology we don't understand, General Yoon continued. Their ships can disable our weapons from a distance, They can appear out of nowhere, and they have destroyed every civilization that has tried to fight them for the past 1,000,000 years. The room was silent. Then Captain Hana Kim spoke up from her seat. But none of those civilizations knew the harvesters were coming. We do. And none of them had help from other species. We might. General Yoon nodded to her. Captain Kim's brother Jun has been sent as Earth's messenger to the other young species, the Alnar, the Patron, the Noxari, and the Vex. He will warn them and ask for their help. Director Soo Kim of the Global Science Initiative stood up next. She was no relation to Hana and Jun, but she shared their determination. My team has been studying the data Ambassador Veldoran gave us, she said. We've found patterns in how the harvesters attack. They always target communication systems first, then power, then weapons. If we can keep our communications working, we might have a chance. Might isn't good enough, said General Yoon. We need more information. We need to know what these things are, where they come from, and most importantly, how to kill them. Hana stood up. That's why Ambassador Veldoran and I are going to break into the Assembly's archives. The room erupted in voices. General Yoon called for quiet. Explain, Captain. The Assembly has been watching the harvesters for 1,000,000 years. They must know more than what Veldoran has told us. There are others like him who want to help. With their help, we can access the complete records. It's too dangerous, said Soo Kim. If the Assembly catches you, they might decide to help the harvesters instead of just watching. It's a risk we have to take, Hana replied. We need every advantage we can get. General Yoon thought for a moment, then nodded. Go, but be careful. Earth needs you back here for the fight. The Talri homeworld was beautiful in a strange way. Everything was made of crystal. The buildings, the roads, even the plants looked like glass sculptures. Hana wore a special suit that protected her from the high levels of radiation that the Talri thrived on. We must be quick, Veldoran said, as they walked through the empty halls of the Great Archive. The guards will return in 1 hour. The archive was huge, with crystal pillars stretching up hundreds of feet. Data crystals lined the walls, each containing the history of a species that had been observed into extinction. How many? Hana asked, looking at the endless rows. 327 species in the last 1,000,000 years, Veldoran replied. Some fought, some hid, some begged, all died. They came to a large crystal in the center of the archive. It glowed with a deep purple light. This is the complete record of the harvesters, Veldoran said. No one but the eldest observers are allowed to access it, but I have borrowed an access key. He placed a small crystal against the larger one. It glowed, and suddenly the air was filled with images, planets being destroyed, ships being torn apart, and strange readings that Hana couldn't understand. Download everything, she said, holding up a data device. We'll sort through it later. The data transferred. Hana walked among the records of dead civilizations. So many species, so many worlds, all gone because the Assembly decided it was natural to let them die. Veldoran, what happens to the Assembly members? Do the harvesters attack them too? The Talri's light dimmed slightly. No, the elder species are immune. The harvesters only target those who have recently achieved faster-than-light travel. Hana turned to him, her eyes narrowing. That's not natural selection. That's a programmed response. These harvesters, they're not some force of nature. They're tools. Before Veldoran could respond, an alarm sounded. Red light pulsed through the crystal walls. We've been discovered, Veldoran said. We must leave now. They ran through the archive as crystal guards began to pour in from the entrances. Hana clutched the data device to her chest. They had what they came for. Now they just had to get out alive. Back on the Dauntless, Hana and her crew studied the stolen data. Dr. Mi Kang hadn't slept in 2 days as she pored over the information. This is incredible, she said, her eyes wide with excitement despite her exhaustion. The harvesters aren't random predators. They're machines. Very, very old machines. Who built them? Asked Lieutenant Taepark. According to this, they were created by a species called the Architects. Over 2 million years ago, the Architects feared that younger species would eventually surpass them. So they built the harvesters to cull any species that reached a certain technological level. What happened to these architects? Asked Hana. Dr. Kang laughed, but there was no humor in it. They're still around. They're part of the assembly. In fact, they're the leaders of it. The room fell silent as everyone took in this information. So the assembly isn't just watching, Hana said slowly. They're protecting the system that keeps them on top. Exactly, said Dr. Kang. And here's the important part. The harvesters have a weakness. They're programmed to counter the technology of a single species. They've never had to face multiple species with different technologies working together. Hana smiled for the first time in days. And that's exactly what my brother Jun is arranging right now. The ship's communicator beeped. It was a message from Earth. Jun had returned, and he wasn't alone. Representatives from the Alnar, Petrin, and Noxari had come with him. The Vex had refused to join, but promised not to interfere. The coalition is forming, Hana said. Now we need a plan to use the harvesters' programming against them. Dr. Kang pointed to a section of data. I think I can build a weapon that disrupts their control systems. They use a form of quantum entanglement for communication. If we can break that link, then we break the harvesters, Hana finished. The Dauntless raced back to Earth. Hana felt something she hadn't felt since this began. Hope. The odds were still against them. The harvesters had never been defeated in 1,000,000 years. But humans were good at beating the odds, and for the first time they weren't fighting alone. Back on Earth, the coalition of species worked day and night to prepare. Ships from the Alnar with their organic technology that grew rather than was built. Weapons from the Petrin who used sound waves in ways humans had never imagined. Shields from the Noxari who could bend light and energy around their ships. And at the center of it all, the humans, bringing these different technologies together into one plan. 72 hours before the harvesters were due to arrive, Hana stood with her brother Jun on the observation deck of Luna Station. Earth hung before them, blue and beautiful. Do you think we can win? Jun asked quietly. Hana looked at the fleet gathering around Earth. Ships of different shapes and sizes, crewed by beings who looked nothing like humans but who faced the same threat. I don't know, she said honestly, but I know we're going to give the assembly one hell of a show. Jun smiled. The galaxy has watched species die for too long. It's time they saw one fight back. As they spoke, sensors began to light up all across the system. The harvesters had arrived early. The battle for Earth was about to begin. The stars shone bright against the black of space as Captain Hana Kim looked out from the bridge of the Earth ship Dauntless. The ship hung in orbit around Proxima b, the closest planet to Earth that could support human life. Hana had been captain for 5 years. In that time, she had met 12 different alien peoples and helped set up 7 human colonies. This was the life she had always wanted. Captain, we're getting a call, said Lieutenant Tay Park. His fingers moved quickly over the blue screen at his station. It's from the Talri embassy again. Hana sighed and brushed a strand of black hair from her face. The Talri were one of the first aliens humans had met. They looked like walking crystals and spoke in high, musical voices. They were friendly enough, but something about them always seemed off to Hana. They watched humans too closely, like they were waiting for something. Put it on the main screen, she said. The image of Ambassador Veldoran appeared. His crystal body glowed with soft blue light. Today he seemed different. The light pulsed faster than normal, and his voice had a strange edge to it. Captain Kim, I need to speak with you right away. It's about something very important for your people. The cycle is coming. Hana felt a chill run down her spine. Something in his voice made her think this wasn't just normal diplomat talk. What? Cycle, Ambassador? The one your species has not faced yet. The one that has killed over 300 civilizations in the last 1,000,000 years. The harvesters come for all who reach beyond their home worlds. Hana looked at Tay, whose eyes had grown wide. Ambassador, I think you should explain this in person. I'll send a shuttle for you. 2 hours later, Hana sat in the meeting room with Tay and her science officer, Dr. Mi Kang. Across from them, Ambassador Veldoran's crystal form caught the light as he spoke. You humans have only been traveling among the stars for 15 years. The Galactic Assembly has existed for millions of years. In that time, we have seen the same thing happen again and again. A young species finds out how to travel faster than light. They build colonies, they meet other species, then the harvesters come. Who are these harvesters? Asked Dr. Kang, her pen tapping against her tablet. We don't know exactly what they are. Some think they are machines left by a long-dead race. Others believe they are living beings that feed on technology. What we do know is that they destroy any species that reaches a certain level of development. Hana leaned forward. And your people, the Talri, just watch this happen? You don't try to help? Veldoran's light dimmed slightly. The Assembly's rule is to observe, but never change the natural order. We record the achievements of each species before they are lost. We keep their memory alive. That's cold, Tay said, his voice hard. You're saying you just watch as whole species die out? The last species that tried to fight the harvesters was wiped out completely, Veldoran said. The one before that, too. Fighting back only makes things worse. Then why tell us now? Asked Hana. Why break your rules to warn us? Because something has changed. The harvesters normally attack a young species' colonies first, then their homeworld. But they have changed their pattern. They are coming for Earth first. They will arrive in 3 months. The room fell silent. Hana felt as if all the air had been sucked out of her lungs. How do you know this? She finally asked. I am part of a small group within the Assembly who believe the old ways are wrong. We have been monitoring harvester movements for centuries. The signs are clear. Dr. Kang spoke up, her voice trembling slightly. How do they attack? What weapons do they use? They appear at the edge of a star system without warning. Their ships are unlike anything you have seen, massive structures that seem to break the laws of physics. They disable all advanced technology, then destroy everything. No warnings, no demands, just destruction. Hana stood up and walked to the window. Earth was just a blue dot from here, a tiny spot of life in the vast blackness. 8 billion people lived on that dot. Her family, her friends, everyone she had ever known. We need to warn Earth, she said. And we need to know everything you know about these harvesters. The emergency meeting on Luna Station was tense. Hana had brought Ambassador Veldoran to meet with Earth's leaders. General Jin Yoon of the Earth Defense Force stood with his arms crossed, his face like stone as he listened. You're telling us that these aliens have been watching species get wiped out for millions of years and they've done nothing? He asked. It is our way, Veldoran said. We observe, we record, we remember. You're not observers, Hana cut in. You're vultures. The room erupted in voices. President Sora Lee raised her hand for quiet. Ambassador, you said your people have recordings of past harvester attacks. We need that information if we're going to have any chance. I have brought all the data I could gather, Veldoran said, but you must understand, no species has ever survived a full-scale harvester attack. Dr. Jun Lee, Earth's top expert on alien life, spoke up. Maybe that's because they all fought alone. Hana looked at him with new interest. What do you mean? Well, if the Assembly has been keeping all young species separate, never telling them about the threat until it's too late, then each species faces the harvesters on their own. How many other young species are out there right now? General? Yoon asked Veldoran. Currently, there are 4 others besides humans who have achieved faster-than-light travel in the last century. The Alnar, the Patron, the Noxari, and the Vex. Have you warned them too? Asked Hana. No, they are not yet targets. President Lee stood up. Then we need to warn them ourselves. If the harvesters are changing their pattern to attack Earth first, who says they won't change it again? For the first time since she had known him, Hana saw fear in Veldoran's crystalline form. The Assembly would see that as a serious violation of our most sacred laws. Your laws have led to the death of hundreds of civilizations, Hana said. Maybe it's time for some new laws. As the meeting continued into the night, plans began to form. Earth would not go quietly. They would reach out to the other young species. They would dig through the data Veldoran had brought. They would prepare to fight. And if the assembly didn't like it? Well, as General Yoon put it, I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees. And if these harvesters want Earth, they're going to have to fight for every inch of it. Later, as Hana walked with Veldoran back to his ship, she asked the question that had been bothering her. Why are you really helping us? What made you break your people's rules? The Talri was silent for a long moment, then his light pulsed softly. In all my years of watching, I have never seen a species like humans. You push boundaries. You refuse to accept limits. When faced with the impossible, you try anyway. He turned his crystal face toward her. I am tired of watching bright flames be snuffed out. Just once I want to see what happens when the flame fights back. As Veldoran's ship departed Luna Station, Hana looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the harvesters were coming, but this time, Earth would be ready. This time, the observers would see something new. This time, humanity would not die quietly.